Near the Hacienda Guachipelin is this park. I'm not sure if it's a national park or state park called Rincon De La Vieja. I think it translates into something like the corner of the old woman. At any rate, it's a nice park. I highly recommend that you get there early in the day because there are a number of hikes to do, and I think they close the park down around 4:30. So they don't let you go into additional hiking areas after a certain hour because they require you to have X amount of time to get back. So I guess it's a safety thing. But nonetheless, we started this trip kind of late in the day. It was after probably 12:30, 1 o'clock. Take plenty of water. This first part of the hike, which really goes through these bubbling mud areas with steaming water. And it's kind of a active area with volcanic activity, so it's kind of neat to see. The trail is extremely well worked out, and you're paying for the privilege, I guess. I mean, I think this particular park was at least $14 or $16 per person. So family of five, it's almost $100 adventure, and that gets pretty pricey. So I think that's why I would have plenty of water, get there early so you could do a number of the different hikes. It wasn't so bad on this particular hike. There weren't a lot of people, so that wasn't too bad, but I could see that at the entrance to these parks, there's big old buses that pull in, and there's bukus of people that get off. One of the things you're going to notice every time you get to these parks, there's a whole bunch of these guys that come out that want to be your guide. I just don't see a whole lot of use. I mean, they're not cheap. I mean, I think it's either averages about $10 per person to $20 per person for the guide. So on top of the high cost of getting into these parks, now you're going to be paying some other guy. And I also have heard from other people who've paid for a guide that they kind of keep you on a pretty tight schedule. I think that they sort of probably have X amount of time that they want to get you in and out of the park so they get on to the next customer, if you will. So that's a problem, and I just wouldn't use it. I mean, I definitely like the ability to do and go at our own pace and stop here or stop there. So what, you can always take out a travel book later and read up about this. I think this is called a fig tree. Fascinating little root system. I don't want to give you wrong information, but anyway, first part of this hike, it's kind of a loop. I think it takes maybe an hour and a half or so if you're going at a normal pace. It's pretty neat. I mean, the first part is kind of open, so you're going to feel a little bit exposed, and this is the area where a lot more of the volcanic activity is going on. You're going to see that, but this gives you a good idea of what the trail looks like. I mean, this is one of those equal access for all where anybody could really hike it. So this is kind of further into the interior of the park, and you're going to see these different volcanic features. I always kind of wondered what did the original inhabitants hundreds of years ago think of getting to these areas where you see these bubbling springs and this hot steam kind of coming out of the ground. I wonder if they actually utilized it, or whether for cooking, or whether for ceremony, or whether they just sort of got freaked out and sort of stayed away from it. But nonetheless, I mean, it's a well worked out park. There's always a quandary with the cost of it, so I think in retrospect it would have been better for us to have arrived early, done this first part of the park, which is a fairly easy loop, and there is another much more major hike. I think it's about a 4-hour round trip that you are required really to have plenty of water, because it's open, exposed like this for a part of it, and it's also much more rigorous. It doesn't have this nice convenient little trail. It's uphill a lot, and I guess there's one or two good viewpoints. We didn't do it, but I think because of the cost, make a whole day of it and try to do the whole park, so that it's a much greater and wider adventure. So again, this trail kind of meanders around, and there's a point that this nice old paved gravelly surface changes, and you're really walking through the woods, and it's not quite as convenient as this part of the trail is showing, but that's much later down in the video. I mean, you know, it's a nice little hike. I did find it to be a bit toasty. It's, I think, partly because it's fairly exposed and open to the elements, if you will. So you definitely going to want to have, I would say, almost 2 liters of water is probably a very good standard for any basic hike. Typically at the ranger station, which is a nice. I mean, at the entrance, it's pretty slick. They got nice bathrooms. I mean, they ought to for the amount of money that they're charging. Here I went off the path a little bit just to get a feel. What does it look like if you're not on the designated path? I don't think you're supposed to do that, but it's always nice to. Here's a little bit of a viewpoint. Gives you an idea of what the rest of the topography looks like, not necessarily from the viewpoint of the trail. Can't say we saw a whole lot of wildlife as the hike continues and it gets more into the forested area. You'll see a little bit more life. I think that was the first time we really saw spider monkeys, and it was a bit of a thrill, but they're I tried to get a picture of it, and they were kind of far away, and the kids kind of scared them, so I didn't get really good photos. But there are other places in Costa Rica where they're prevalent and ubiquitous, so I would almost not strain your head or your neck trying to see a couple obscure little monkeys and wait till you're in the thick of it, and it's much easier to record. So the journey kind of continues. This shows a little bit of, I guess, where there's heat and moisture, you're going to get this steam percolating up and through the ground. You can't really get too close to it, and there is a pretty strong sulfur smell in the area. It's kind of another kind of a bubbling, mud bubbling spring. They're on the Guachipelin property, the Hacienda. They've actually gone ahead and taken and created some real hot springs where you can different pools that you can actually get in and enjoy it. Some of them are quite hot, and then they actually go upstream when they hear kind of a rumbling, if you will, and they grab a bunch of mud that kind of percolates up from the earth, and they bring that to the patrons, and they smear it on their bodies. And I mean, I swear that I think there's something to it. It does make your skin feel a lot tighter and nicer. So maybe there's something to the myth of putting this volcanic high mineral mud on your skin. But here, that's not the objective, and you're not allowed to do that. You're really kind of restricted to walking on the designated path. Houston. Right here.
say run.
He looks so dumb. He just wants to hike with us. What's the long head?
Cool gig.
And you usually got to use the close-up. Use the close-up feature. You can pull it forward.
So what's the bar?
This volcano.
Volcano.
Look at this over here. What's this? There's a hole.
That's really cool, huh? We got a mosquito on the nose. No, you can't cross over there. How much is very bubbly.
Oh boy. She's hot.
Can I hop off the trail?
Boy, that means 212 plus degrees, you know. It's funny how this one isn't all muddy.
Wow.
Okay, I'm gonna hop off the trail. So just a picture of this.
No, you're not.
Why not? Look at that little lizard. He's cool. Look at him.
These probably those people are legal starfish too. Yeah, no real sense about it now.
Nice. Are you gonna put a little video together?
Yeah, I do. You wonder if he's getting all kinds of special minerals from all of this. You know, year round. Even.
Cathedral. You know, that was pretty neat. That was different.
Hungry?